Hi. I want to introduce myself before I share what I've written. I'm Jay. I'm one of the alters in our system. So I've thought about this, and I've been terrified and uncomfortable with the idea of sharing, but I know that every system and every system story is important to listen to, and alters their memories and their stories and their experiences are valid. I want to make a trigger warning, as this does involve events of September 11th, mention of self-deletion, suicide, and just absolute hatred towards systems, alters, so ableism, I guess. With those in mind, yeah. So we're currently writing a memoir on our experience with the disorder, and what we're doing is we're holding space for alters. They want to write a chapter on their experience as an alter, and that includes who we are, what our role is, what our experience is, and if we have memories / source we want to share. And that's what I did, so I'm gonna read this. I'm just worried that I'm gonna have people react to this the way that they did when I shared it on TikTok. So just all I ask is that you listen. Don't make assumptions, please. I promise you that I mean good faith when I say this, that I don't claim that what happened to me actually happened. I don't claim that. I don't claim that we were there. I've never said that we were there. I've never claimed that we experienced what I've written. All I'm saying is that I have these memories, these false memories that the brain has created, and I cannot control that. I'm not trying to make myself a victim, and I certainly am not making fun of the victims and the survivors and their families. I hate that I have to make that a disclaimer, but because of the harassment that I faced that forced me into dormancy for months, thanks y'all, it has to be said, so here we go. Before I begin, I want to make an explanation of what I'm about to tell you. The memories I have are called pseudomemories. These are memories the brain created while forming the alter. This didn't happen to us, and I don't claim that it happened to us. But the thing about pseudomemories is that they feel very real, And for some, it's hard to separate ourselves from them. And for the longest time, I had a hard time accepting, and still sort of do, that this didn't actually happen to the body. My name is Jay. I'm 14 years old, and I'm from New York. I used to live in Manhattan. I lived with my mom and my dad, as well as our pet cat. I loved baseball, especially the New York Yankees, and I loved school. When I found out I was part of the system, I was shy and quiet. I didn't want to interact with anyone because I didn't know who they were or where I was. All I knew was that I wasn't home anymore, and I didn't have my family members there with me. I was lost. The first person I met when I fronted for the first time was the body's mother. She was kind and willing to listen. She did struggle a bit when she learned about me, but she did listen to my story, and I'm grateful for that. When she went to New York, I asked her if she could find some information on me, just in case my story was actually true. Again, this was back when I didn't accept that it didn't happen. But I was so determined that I asked her to visit a specific memorial in Manhattan, the 9/11 Memorial. If you're not familiar with US history, September 11th is a very important date. In 2001, New York experienced one of the worst terrorist attacks in history. The terrorist group known as Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 planes and flew 2 of them into the World Trade Center and 1 into the Pentagon. The 4th plane was supposed to head for the White House, but the passengers on board took back control and managed to crash it into a field in Pennsylvania, Flight 93. These attacks lasted several hours, but it caused a lasting scar on the country and started the War on Terror. The US went to war and assassinated Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda. Many lives were lost that day: men, women, firemen, and worst of all, children. My memories have made me one of those victims lost in the events. That's what I remember. Again, when I say that my memories have made me one of those victims, I'm talking about that they feel so real, and they felt so real that at the time, I legit believed that I was a victim. I hate that I have these memories. I can't control it. And for a while, I thought that maybe it was a past life stuff. People, believe in past lives. Yeah. Anyways. History is one of Luna's hyperfixations or special interests. Learning about what happened in the world is important to them because things happen that people either refuse to talk about or don't even acknowledge that it happened. The September 11 attacks still to this day are controversial, with many people saying it was an inside job or that it didn't happen. Yet there's live actual footage of the planes hitting the towers, the black boxes of the terrorists on the planes, and people still think it was the US that caused this to happen, just to blame a minority. How could people say that when I literally lost my life that day? When many people lost their lives. Tell that to their families. For them, that was the worst day of their lives. So what really happened that day? This is the start of my memories of that day. The earliest thing I can remember was 7:45 a.m. Tuesday morning. I'm sitting in the kitchen of my house, eating breakfast, getting ready to leave. My dad said that I could go to work with him that day instead of going to school, having a father-son day. I was like, take your kid to work day or something. As long as I brought homework and something educational, he didn't mind. And it was an opportunity to see his work in action. My dad worked as a businessman in the North Tower of the World Trade Center. His office was somewhere between the 60th and 70th floor. I can't remember exactly, but keep that in mind. So I'm sitting in the kitchen, TV on, watching a recording of the Yankees game. Coming from New York, the Yankees are my favorite baseball team. I was probably excited because my dad had gotten us tickets to one of their upcoming games. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be going to that game because the events, but also I'm an alter. We're in Washington State. It's 2026. 25th anniversary is coming up. But at the time, I didn't know what was to come. Nobody did. The state and the world wouldn't know what was happening until after the first attack. Technically, they had no idea that it was a terrorist thing until the second plane hit. But so in the meantime, it was just a regular day. I finished up breakfast, said goodbye to my mom, and told her that I loved her and that I'd see her later. That would be the last time I ever saw my mom. We lived pretty close to the Trade Center, about a 10-minute drive. We got to the building around 8 a.m. Still normal, nothing out of the ordinary. My dad and I entered the North Tower, said good morning to his co-workers, took the elevator up to his office and settled in. Compared to other offices, his was a bit bigger. His desk faced away from the window, so this is the window. My dad's desk was right here, and his back was to the window. That's where you would sit. The door to the right of his desk. So you walk in, you'd see the desk and the window over here, and then in the corner there was a chair that I sat in where I began working on my schoolwork. So right corner. Again, door, there's the chair, desk, window. I also had a few books with me, one about baseball, obviously, all to keep me from getting bored. Everything was normal and quiet until we heard the explosion. 8:40 a.m. was when the explosion was heard, or at least what I thought was an explosion. I had no idea what was happening, and neither did my dad. We just heard the boom and the building shook. My dad told me to stay there, and he left his office. I could see papers falling past the window, so I stood up and walked over. I opened the window, and the smell of smoke hit me. I looked up and saw just this black cloud. There was debris falling, but I didn't know what, so I closed the window. As soon as I did that, that's when I saw something big fall. I looked down and saw that it was a person. A person jumped. I saw someone literally jump from the upper floor to their death. Watching someone die in front of you is unreal. It's a mix of emotions. You're frozen in shock, trying to process what just happened. And that's how I felt at the moment. I had never seen anyone commit suicide before or heard about people in my life dying. And yet, I just saw that person die. When my dad got back into the room, I told him what happened. I could see the look on his face. He had just talked to his coworkers about the explosion. Someone had said that a boiler exploded on the upper floor, but it didn't make any sense. He told me that people were evacuating the building and that we should as well. So I grabbed my bag and left his office with him as we headed to the stairwell. In an emergency, the elevators weren't in use. So you can imagine many people on the floor heading to the stairwell, everyone trying to frantically exit the building. I had no idea that what actually happened was a plane flying into the building. all I heard was the explosion. I thought, what happened? Well, I know now. As we gathered in the stairwell, my dad called my mother. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but from the look on my dad's face, I could tell it wasn't great. And then shortly after that, the building shook. I didn't know at the time that the cell tower had been hit, but my dad knew. And Mom was watching this all unfold live on TV. Like many people that day, I had no idea what was happening was a terror attack. The confusion and fear was so unreal for me. Everyone kept trying to head downstairs and out the front doors, but because there were so many people trying to escape, we ended up taking what felt like forever. Like, we were all kind of packed in this giant, like, stairwell. Like, so many people. How do I describe it? You guys ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? You know that scene where they're going into that door, into that room, and everyone's piled in? That's basically what it was. My dad kept telling me to stick with him, to hold on to him so I wouldn't get crushed. It was so packed in there and I was terrified. I wanted to leave to go home. When the building shook again, everything started to come down. The last thing I remember was something metal hitting me on the head, back here, and everything went dark. When I came to, I was sitting alone in a dark room. The door opened and I thought I was dreaming because I saw what looked like a goat person of some sort. She was kind, but it didn't feel real. The first altar that I met in the system was the fictive of Toriel from Undertale. Okay. Almost done. When they told me I was an altar in a DID system, I legit thought they were joking. I thought this was heaven, but they said it wasn't. That my memories weren't real. I was upset. What do you mean they weren't real? Yes, they were. I literally watched my dad and I get crushed as the building came collapsing on top of us, and you mean to tell me I imagined that all? The first time I watched the footage of 9/11 from old news clips and video recordings as well as documentaries, I knew the event was real. I hadn't imagined it, but it just didn't feel like my memories were fake. Sure, the event was real, but I know now that the brain had created these memories as some sort of hyperfixation of Luna's, and how their brain works is it creates alters based on things that we either need help with, to cope with, or just because we find comfort or fascination in. And I was that altar, the one who remembers everything about that day. When we posted about our experience living with the disorder on social media, I thought I could find comfort and share my story. The reaction I got was just horrible. People kept telling me that I can't have memories of a day that I wasn't there for or even born yet, that I was making fun of the victims and their families. All of that hatred and disgust from people that didn't understand what was actually happening forced me into dormancy for months. It was only after I came back did I really begin to think and accept that while my memories were real to me, they were memories the brain created to cope with things Luna had faced. I became a trauma holder, though I'm not exactly sure how to even do my role correctly. I think the best way that I have found to kind of cope with this is it's kind of like exposure therapy. Watching everything about 9/11, from seeing the planes to the towers collapsing, And for a while, I thought that the North Tower was the one to collapse first, when it really was the second one. Actually, 3 towers collapsed that day. It was the South Tower, North Tower, and then a side building that collapsed due to the stuff. When I asked our mom if she could do some research, she found a few names, but nothing that said that there was a 14-year-old boy named Jay, J-A-Y, that was in the towers that day. There were a total of 11 children who died that day, but not a 14-year-old. How do I feel about knowing that I have memories based on the day? I don't know. I've accepted it mostly, but I can't deny the fact that they still feel so real to me. And I keep telling myself that they're my memories. They're what I remember. But I know I wasn't there. The body was born exactly 2 months after 9/11. We were born on November 11, 2001. We believe that the trauma that our mom faced on that day, she wasn't exactly there, but her office was near the White House, which was to be the target of the 4th plane. We believe that the trauma of hearing that and the horror and just hearing that while she's at the doctor's office getting, a checkup to see how we were doing, still a fetus. There's a science that basically shows that trauma can be passed down from parent to child while the mom is still pregnant. Let me look it up. Yeah. Trauma that the parent experiences during pregnancy can be passed down to their child, their unborn child, meaning that they can be born with trauma. I don't know the exact name, but if anyone knows, they can comment, I guess. But we like to believe that we kind of saved our mom's life that day, because if the plane, the 4th plane, Flight 93, had made it to its destination and our mom was at work that day, it's possible she either would not be here or could be severely hurt or even more traumatized. And because she was pregnant with us, she didn't go to work that day. She was at a doctor's appointment. And we're here. Anyways, that's my story, my memories. I think the reason why I wanted to kind of share this is because we just watched a documentary on the woman Tanya or Tanaya Head. She was someone that claimed that she was there, and she made this whole story up and people believed her only for it to be fake. And seeing that, for me, it was like, why would you do that? So I kind of wanted to share a little bit that her story, her experience is nothing compared to mine, as my situation's a lot different because she is not a system. She's not an alternate DID system. She has a mental condition. I don't know if it's delusions or Munchausen's by proxy or what it is, but yeah. Probably trauma because apparently she was in a car accident and her arm was severed. She added that, and she mentioned like her arm was severed or almost cut off in her story. But I'm not Tanaya. I'm not her. And unlike her, I never claimed I was there. I just have pseudo-memories. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening, if you stayed. Comments are gonna be strict just to manage. And, I really don't want to have a similar experience where I have to be forced into dormancy again, so please be kind. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Anyways, nice to meet you.